Good evening, my Trues Clues aficionados. I hope you all are doing well out there, taking care of yourself, preparing for the holidays, enjoying your time with your loved ones, or however you choose to spend your time. If you're seeing something, hopefully willing to say something, but doing it in a safe manner, where you're not getting in any kind of extracurricular activity violence there. Um, the case I want to talk to you tonight. Oh, I may be sounding a little stuffy and I may pause here and there. I like have gone down to Denver to visit the relatives throughout the winter, and for some reason my resistance must be down or something because when I come back up, I always get ill. And when I went down for Thanksgiving, boy, ooh, I got really, really sick. So I've been kind of under the weather, a little behind in my video making. Um, but at the same time, when I was feeling good, I was doing research. I just didn't have enough energy to like get it all together to put it out there. And I can't remember how I came across this case. I think it was just in my regular true crime looking at things, and I came across an article there. Now, the Vikings, right? They are a very strong, tall, proud manner type of people back in the day. And I think it's kind of funny because when you go do that DNA family tree stuff, a lot of it goes back either to the Nordic people or Kubla Khan. So I think people are a lot closer together than they think they are, which is hilarious. But this situation, it was a difficult research case for me because I didn't know. I have triggers going through this case. It reminded me of a case I became way too emotionally involved in, the Elisa Lam case at the Cecil Hotel, which, I'm enthralled with the Cecil Hotel anyway because of the history that it has. And then what happened to Elisa there. I don't think anything or anybody was entirely satisfied with the results that came out of that. There was just so much speculation, what people call conspiracy theories going on there. And this case is a lot like that. So let's get into it. I have a person by the name of Annie Jorgensen. And in December 2005, on Prestwick Beach in Scotland, her body was found. It looked like apparently drowned. She was originally from Ireland and she had went to Scotland because she loved it so well. She was kind of a transplant there. And they said she was just a beautiful, tall woman, very willing to explore, very strong swimmer. And close to her family. Her brothers and sisters had a little band that they would do, at the local clubs there and sing. There's a little footage of her doing that. But anyway, she decides that she's going to move to Scotland. She had visited there before once on vacation with her friends and just truly fell in love with it. Um, Decided, hey, this is it for me. So she goes and she rents an apartment, or I don't know, she buys a house or rents an apartment, whatever, but she starts living out there regardless. She's out there and she makes plans to come back and visit her family. And the family is expecting her and everything. And there's tickets that have been bought and things like that. So the next time you see her, she is at the airport. She goes in the airport, you see her walking around. She goes out into the parking lot. She looks around a little bit. She goes back inside of the airport again, does whatever for a few minutes, goes back out into the parking lot again, never to be seen again until her body is picked up on the beach. So there is a man and his dog walking along the beach. He sees somebody, like laying out on the beach, head facing towards the wall of the that he was on or whatever. And he said it almost looked like somebody was sunbathing, but yet when you look closely, it was not somebody sunbathing. He became alarmed, called the cops. The cops came, checked it out. And that's when all of the mystery truly indeed does start. So her bags were with her at the time, and she had all of her clothes on. and the bags were close by to her, which was kind of a mystery to begin with. You'd think that things would be scattered around or at least have floated away and not be so close in proximity to her body. So then they take her and they do an autopsy there, through the police and law enforcement area. And they come back and they say that they thought it was somebody offing themselves, which her family was like, what? She was in the airport on her way to come home and visit the family. Totally not making sense that she hadn't displayed any depression or anything like that at all. So the mystery starts to deepen. The family is, like, what is going on? So when they finally get the body back, there's like chunks of her hair that had been cut off, and she had bruises in her body, like somebody had maybe grabbed her like this around the shoulders, handprints and thumbprints, maybe trying to strangulate a person. And the family was like, this doesn't make sense with what they're telling us, that it would have been a person trying to off themselves. It looks like somebody was trying to harm somebody else. So that starts the ball rolling. And then they're like, okay, well, then if she offed herself, what was the method and how was it done? So take it now. This is frigid water, freezing water. And they looked out into where she was found. They're looking out there and they're like, okay, well, let's walk out there and see how easy it would be for you to off yourself by this body of water. Start walking out there. They're freaking freezing. The water's only coming up to their knees. They're like, this so doesn't make sense. And especially with her being a strong swimmer, I mean, where do things have happened? Yes, but no. So they want to look into it further. There's another autopsy that's done that kind of challenges some of the information that was put out in the first one. They went, excuse me, I had to grab Chacha there. So they go and they start looking into it, and they find out that, okay, it does appear that she did have water in her lungs, because they had what they call water skeletons in there, which I guess are diatoms. And depending on the diatoms that you have in your lungs or the water skeletons, would either depend on whether this happened in fresh water or whether this happened in salt water. When they took a look at her, it turned out that the diatoms were indeed fresh water, not salt water at all. And then when they examined the body, they found another woman's DNA on the outside of her hands, even after she had been in the water now. So none of that was making any sense. They were just like, what could have possibly happened? So they finally ended up getting the daughter's body back. There is on Spreaker, a small series that I listened to, and she had said, she saw the body, she saw the bruising. There was other kind of bruising. They try to say that when you are expired, that your face goes down in the water, and a lot of times you get surface damage like that from rocks and other things that'll get you. But the damage on her didn't correspond to these type of injuries. So the mom is totally like, this is not adding up to me. I don't know what could happen, but they wanted to look into it further. So they requested the autopsy that was done initially by law enforcement. They had to put in a request for it and see if they could get permission to get them. They were denied. They said that whatever was in there would be harmful to the public and to the family, but even though it's the family requesting the medical records, they were absolutely not going to release them. And then the people doing the show had also made a request for those same records and were denied as well. The family had another autopsy done, so this body had been autopsied 3 times now, and both of those disagreed with the autopsy findings from the first one done by law enforcement. The family then began to suspect that there may have been a cover-up going on. And there could have been a cover-up going on. Apparently, the United States and the UK were aware of this secret program they had to fly men from a certain area that was supposed to be undercover these flights. And one of the people that was getting ready to divulge the information on them had the same name as Annie's middle name. So they're like, huh, does that make sense or does that not make sense? Is that something that, that we should follow up on or what's going on from there? So Christina Bjorgeson, and her reputation on investigating secret services in America. She had reported that at the time of Annie's death, the U.S. intelligence was flying suspected terrorists worldwide. Notably, they used Prestwick Airport to get prisoners from the Middle East to Guantanamo Bay. And I'm sure they wanted nobody to know about that. The theory is that the agents mistook Annie for the suspect, leading to her death. And now everybody's rushing to cover it all up, and that's why everything is suspicious. That's why her death has been considered a state secret. What? In addition to, they try to say that Annie's hair had been cut because when she was first expired, her body was saved for a year before it was shipped out. Now, what the reasons for that were, I don't really know. So, by the time everything is said and done, it is now, a couple years afterwards. And they finally got her back to Sweden, and she was there at the funeral home. Is not coming up, correct with Guia. I can't say her name, I'm not foreign. But she's very concerned, very much wants to solve the case. She has been working on it with one of Annie's friends, Maria. They do feel that a lot of this is questionable, but they're not getting any help, that they need to try to resolve the situation either. So they feel that the investigation was done very shoddily. They're wondering if there wasn't some kind of cover up. Does this CIA thing come into play? Was, there a retaliation going on and then the wrong person was retaliated on? Why was she having fresh water in her lungs when she was found in a saltwater area? When the family's autopsy was completed, they said that she did have a mark on her head looking like she had been struck with a very heavy object that could very well have made her unconscious and then helped her to expire. So, a very young, vibrant woman who had a great future ahead of her is now turned into a true crime story. And it was a little triggering for me because of Lisa Lam. I was sure, as I think many people were, that there was something underlying going on, that had, some kind of evil connections or something like that, especially with the history of the hotel. When you looked at the initial, going in and out of the windows, how they said that there was an alarm on the window so it couldn't happen, but people were partying all the time out there. If they were partying all the time out there, did she go out there? There was nobody there. She just hopped into this big water tank. So unsatisfying are the answers to that thing. And then the video, so many hours of reviewing that video over and over again. That little piece of the video when she's on the elevator there, and it looks like somebody's shadow of a foot is there and then moves away when she keeps looking around. And she may have been in a mental fugue at the time, but that doesn't mean that there was something more sinister going on as well. And then when they said that, it was her offing her own life and, how when you're going through this type of situation, if she got stuck in the tank in the water, that would have explained, her clothing being at the bottom of the tank. They're answers, but they're not answers. Do you know what I mean? And I had to really struggle to let that case go and to try to accept those as answers as her family did. But I'm not sure that they were satisfied or I feel satisfied with it. I just feel sad. I feel like it was a horrible situation that is non explainable at this time or explainable in a satisfactory fashion. And I think that's the same thing for Annie and her family. Whatever happened doesn't seem to be explainable how such a young, vibrant woman could be just taken when she was on her way to be home, go to a loving place to be with her family and experience joy in life that most of us only want out of life, just like Elisa. And like I said, she may have been in a mental fugue, but there could have been something sinister going on as well. Maybe they just wanted to put a period on it by answering the questions like that. I'm not sure that her family is 100% satisfied with that answer either, as who would ever be satisfied, with an answer to a missing loved one. Stay safe, you guys. Enjoy the holidays. Okay, so the second conspiracy theory in place right now is regarding one night when Annie was out clubbing, being her beautiful Nordic self, her tall body, blonde hair self. She did call attention to this man, and the way he looked at her just chilled her to her core, she had told her friends. He introduced himself as Martin Leslie, an international rugby star, except the real Martin Leslie was playing on the other side of the world. Annie knew that, so she was suspicious of the guy. When they came to requesting the phone to check and see if they could backtrack and find this guy, which they never did, there was no phone records on Annie's phone for the previous 4 days before her death. Her mother and her family had confirmed they had spoken to her within that time, so why weren't there at least records of that phone call? You come to these things assuming that they're straightforward as they appear. Then the more you delve into the mysterious, the more they become, admits pathologist Stuart Hamilton, an expert on drowning deaths who appears in the show that was podcast. So I'm not trying to say that I think the crime of what happened to these women are the same. I just think that there's a lot of similarities between Elisa and Annie. They were both traveling. Elisa was taking time off from school to go check out the world, and Annie had always been a strong force of nature, and ended up moving to a place that she cared about and wanted to reroot. Their expiration was due to the same circumstances, drowning. The circumstances surrounding both of their deaths, questionable. They had personal items with them. Elisa had her clothes that were at the bottom of the tank. Annie had her clothes and her suitcase that was found with her, which was odd. That normally doesn't happen. How in the world does a small girl like Elisa get up into the tank and then, of course, just jump in and can't get out, and then the whole physicalness of becoming hot and removing your clothing? Plausible. To me, not convincing. And then they're both, Annie would have been a striking creature with her tallness and her long blonde hair. Elisa would have stood out too if she was going up and down to the shops there by the hotel where there were a lot of homeless people. Easy to get a stalker like that, especially when you're small and over to be overtaken. And I remember struggling so hard with that video of Elisa where there was like a foot on the elevator. When you're looking outside, you can kind of see a shadow of maybe somebody waiting there for her, and then a foot kind of moving. I don't know. Everywhere I'll have to decide for ourselves. But the bottom line is the truth that's been put forward on both of these cases is that it's due to drowning and by their own hand. As questionable and convoluted as it seems, it could possibly be the truth. Knowing, situations as we do about the world, there could be something different there as well. Who knows? Blessings to Annie's family, blessings to Elisa's family. I hope that they're able to, move on it's hard to move on without your loved ones, but I definitely can understand how it would be hard to put either of these cases to rest. Because Elisa, in my heart, that case will never be put to rest because I just think it's one of those things like JonBenet. And the thing with Annie, if there's anything like, government involvement, possible government, occlusion, they'll never find out. So I don't know. I don't know what you guys think. I would love to hear in the comments how you feel about it. You guys have a good night. I hope you're having a good holidays. Take care. Love you all.